The paradox of liberty. Tell a man he is free, and his ambition will atrophy in the sun of his own laziness. But tell a man he is a prisoner, and he will fracture his own bones to dismantle the walls. The human psyche is not a machine governed by logic, it is a volatile organism fueled by resistance. We are biologically wired to protect the fragile sanctity of our autonomy. This is why the direct approach, pleading for affection, demanding loyalty, or explaining your worth, is a death sentence for your influence. To control the narrative, you must first abandon the chase. You must master the inverted command. Law 1: The illusion of sovereign choice. The ego's most primitive reflex is to reject any idea that feels external. The moment a person senses a must, their psychological defenses crystallize. The amateur issues a decree, the architect curates a landscape. Do not force a path. Instead, present a binary reality where every door leads to your objective. Option A: your desired outcome, framed as a rational, high-status choice. Option B: a less optimal alternative that emphasizes the loss they will incur if they don't choose option A. When you ask, should we finalize this agreement today to secure your current advantage, or wait until next quarter when the market volatility increases, you aren't selling. You are handing them a crown. They will walk through your door just to prove they are the ones holding the key. Law 2: The magnetism of the forbidden, reactance theory. There is no force of attraction more violent than a "do not enter" sign. In behavioral psychology, this is reactance. When a perceived freedom is threatened or a resource is withheld, we experience a visceral surge of arousal to reclaim it. If you want an idea to become an obsession, do not pitch it. Gatekeep it. Frame your insights as too volatile, too exclusive, or too dark for the average mind. If you want to be the prize, you must become scarce. Commonality breeds contempt. Barriers breed devotion. By telling someone, you likely lack the temperament to handle the truths in this dossier, you trigger an ego rebellion. They will exhaust themselves trying to qualify for your validation. You are no longer the suitor, you are the Vatican of your own mystery. Law 3: The strategic pivot, the Aikido of conflict. Most people treat an argument like a head-on collision. The strategist treats it like Aikido, using the opponent's momentum to throw them across the room. Pushing back only validates their resistance. Machiavelli understood that to conquer a stubborn mind, you must first appear conquered by it. When met with hostility, do not defend. Amplify. Take their objection to its most catastrophic logical extreme until it collapses under its own weight. You're right. The risks are astronomical. Perhaps we should retreat entirely and wait for a miracle while our window closes. Watch the shift. Because you removed the friction, they lose their footing. They will often begin arguing your side just to restore a sense of equilibrium. You didn't win the fight, you simply refused to provide the floor for it. Law 4: The void of the unspoken. We exist in a terminal state of over-explanation. Silence has become a rare, terrifying commodity. When you justify your actions, you bleed power. You provide the world with the very data it needs to dismantle you. The architect uses silence as a vacuum. When you receive a partial truth or a deflective answer, do not fill the gap. Maintain unwavering eye contact and wait. The human brain abhors a vacuum. It will hallucinate judgment and calculation in your stillness. To escape the crushing pressure of your quiet, they will betray themselves. They will overshare, offer concessions, and confess. Silence is not an absence of sound, it is an abundance of presence. Law 5: The mirror of projected grandeur. Every individual is the protagonist of a cinematic masterpiece playing inside their own skull. They aren't looking at you, they are looking for a reflection of their ideal self. To influence a man, Do not appeal to his logic. Appeal to his vanity. Mirror the version of him he wishes the world could see. Label him with the virtues he fears he lacks. I've noticed you're the type of leader who values long-term legacy over short-term ego. You have now built a gilded cage. To deviate from your request is now to betray his own self-image. You haven't convinced him, you've made it impossible for him to say no without feeling small. Law 6, the competence provocation, the "you probably couldn't" challenge. This is the surgical strike against the ego's most sensitive nerve, its sense of capability. When you need a monumental task completed, do not bribe with rewards. Threaten their status. The ego cannot endure the implication of inadequacy. By saying, "I was going to assign this to you, but I suspect it requires a level of cold-blooded pragmatism that your current team isn't ready for," you create a vacuum of prestige. To restore their self-image, they will not only do the work, they will do it with a desperate, self-destructive intensity just to prove you wrong. You haven't asked for a favor, you've offered them a chance to reclaim their pride. Law 7, the vertigo of absolute freedom. Kierkegaard famously stated that anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. Most people claim they want autonomy, but total liberty is a paralyzing abyss. The master of influence knows that to control someone, you must sometimes grant them too much rope. In a power dynamic, the person who demands to know every move is the one who is trapped. The person who says, "Go, explore, do exactly as you wish, I am entirely indifferent to the outcome," holds the ultimate leverage. By removing the boundaries, you remove the thrill of rebellion. Without a wall to lean against, the other person feels the terrifying weight of their own choices. They will eventually drift back to your gravity, not out of loyalty, but out of a desperate need for the structure your indifference provides. Law 8, the strategic cloak, feigned foolishness. Machiavelli observed that it is often indispensable to play the fool to deceive the wise. When you appear sharp, predatory, and hyper-competent, you trigger an immediate defensive response in others. They hide their secrets, they sharpen their knives. But when you appear slightly flawed, perhaps a bit slower or more naive than the reality, the other person's ego expands. They lower their shields to help or correct you. In their arrogance to show off their superiority, they reveal their hand. They give you the data, the leverage, and the secrets you need. There is no greater tactical advantage than being underestimated by an opponent who believes they are the teacher. Law 9, the alchemy of constructive pessimism. We live in a terminal culture of toxic positivity. It is cheap, loud, and ineffective. To truly mobilize a person, you must first validate their darkness. When someone doubts themselves, do not gaslight them with, "You can do it." Instead, agree with the difficulty. "You're right. This is an objective nightmare. Most people would have quit by now, and honestly, it might be the smarter move for you to walk away." This does two things. It builds an instant, unshakable rapport of honesty, and it triggers the warrior instinct. By framing the goal as nearly impossible, you make the potential success heroic rather than expected. People don't want easy paths, they want to be the ones who survived the fire. Law 10, the implanted revelation, the inception move. A command is an external force, a revelation is an internal birth. The most powerful idea in the world is the one the subject believes they discovered themselves. This is the art of dropping crumbs. Ask leading questions that highlight a flaw without offering a fix. Point to a problem but remain silent. Let their brain bridge the gap you created. When they eventually come to you with their brilliant new strategy, which was your objective all along, you must praise their foresight. You trade the credit for the control. The credit is a trinket for the ego, the control is the engine of reality. let them wear the crown as long as you are the one whispering the decrees. Law 11, the contrast anchor, the door in the face. The human brain is incapable of absolute evaluation, it functions purely on relativity. We only know if something is reasonable by comparing it to something absurd. If you want a specific concession, precede it with an extreme, unacceptable demand. When they inevitably reject the absurd request, you, reluctantly, concede to your actual goal. Compared to the first demand, your real objective looks like a sanctuary of compromise. They feel they have won the negotiation and forced you to back down, while in reality, you have simply funneled them into the exact space you prepared for them. Law 12, the shield of controlled incompetence. In any hierarchy, the reward for being hyper-efficient is more work. If you fix every problem, you become the permanent janitor of other people's failures. Sometimes, the most Machiavellian move is to fail deliberately. Be clumsy with the tasks that drain your energy. Be forgetful regarding the responsibilities that do not serve your long-term empire. This is weaponized incompetence. It forces others to step up, it protects your most valuable asset, your time, and it filters out the noise. Do not catch every falling plate, let the ones that don't matter smash. The sound of breaking glass is the only thing that reminds people of your true value. Law 13, the final severance, the withdrawal. The ultimate law of the human soul, we only truly value what we are in danger of losing. The economic law of supply and demand is the governing law of attraction. If you are always available, always responsive, and always validating, your value drops to zero. You become a utility, like water or air, essential but ignored. If you feel taken for granted, do not complain. Disappear. Withdraw your energy, take longer to reply, become a mystery once more. Create a void where your presence used to be. This triggers a primal, reptilian panic in the other person. They will chase, they will overcompensate, and they will suddenly realize the magnitude of your influence. Indifference is the only signal that commands absolute respect. You have the 13 laws. The architecture is complete. But remember, if you use these as a desperate man clutching for crumbs of power, the world will see through the mask. The goal is not to be a manipulator, the goal is to be individuated. To be a self-contained, psychological ecosystem that doesn't need the world to say, yes. When you reach that state, you don't use the laws. The laws follow you.